The night was loud, the bar alive with the clatter of glasses, the low hum of conversations, and the occasional bursts of laughter. Motorcycles were parked in a messy row outside, gleaming under the neon light that flickered just above the door. Inside, the air smelled of beer, leather, and the faint sweetness of smoke from the grill in the back. It was a night like countless others, until everything changed. At the far corner of the bar, a group of bikers laughed louder than the rest, their heavy boots kicked up on the wooden chairs, their voices dominating the room. Most of the regulars kept their heads down, afraid of attracting the wrong kind of attention. These bikers weren't just passing through. They carried an air of danger, the kind that made the air feel heavier when they entered. Behind the bar worked a young waitress named Alina. She wasn't more than 22, her hair tied back in a messy bun, strands falling into her face as she rushed from one table to another, balancing trays with practiced grace. She was quiet, polite, and no matter how tired she looked, she always managed to smile when handing over drinks. Most of the patrons adored her, though few knew much about her life beyond the bar. She had the kind of gentle presence that made people feel seen even in the loudest crowd. But the bikers, especially their leader, a tall man with tattoos running up his neck and a leather vest covered in patches, were watching her differently. They weren't watching her with respect or kindness. They were watching her with hunger, cruelty, and the kind of power that fed on intimidation. The night wore on until one of them, drunker than the rest, slapped the table and shouted, "Hey, sweetheart, bring us another round?" His voice echoed across the bar, silencing a few conversations. Alina nodded quickly, forcing a smile, and hurried off to get their drinks. When she returned, carefully setting the glasses down, the leader of the bikers smirked and leaned closer to her. "You always this quiet, doll? Or are you just shy?" His words were meant to draw laughter from his gang, and they delivered, snickering and elbowing each other. Alina stepped back, murmuring politely, "Just busy, sir. Enjoy your drinks." But the man wasn't done. With one swift motion he reached out, grabbed the edge of her shirt, and yanked hard. The sound of fabric tearing cut through the bar like a scream. Gasps erupted around the room. The tray she had been holding slipped from her hands, the glasses crashing to the floor, beer spreading like a golden puddle at her feet. The laughter that followed from the bikers was cruel, echoing off the walls. But then something shifted. The leader froze, his smirk vanishing as his eyes landed on what had been revealed beneath the torn fabric. Across Alina's chest, barely hidden under her shirt, was a jagged scar. It wasn't small or faint, it was deep, long, and unmistakably the mark of a terrible past. The kind of scar that told a story of suffering and survival. The room went silent. Even the jukebox in the corner seemed to lose its tune. For a long, breathless moment, no one moved. The biker's hand fell back to his side, his confidence faltering. He hadn't expected this. No one had. Alina's face burned with humiliation, tears stinging her eyes. She tried to cover herself, clutching the torn fabric against her chest, but it was too late. Everyone had seen. Whispers rippled through the crowd, soft, unsure, filled with shock. But then, from a table near the bar, a voice spoke up. "Put your hands on her again," it said firmly, "and you'll regret it." The biker leader turned, his jaw tightening. A man in his late 30s rose from his seat. He wasn't dressed like the bikers, no leather vest, no patches. Just a plain shirt, worn jeans, and eyes that carried a weight far heavier than fists ever could. His name was Daniel, and he was a quiet regular at the bar, the kind who never made a fuss. Most people barely noticed him, until now. Daniel stepped forward, his gaze locked on the biker. "You think tearing her down makes you strong? Look again. That scar isn't shame. That scar is survival, and you couldn't last a day in her shoes." The bar held its breath. Alina's tears spilled, but not just from shame anymore. There was something else in her expression now. Something like shock, even a flicker of relief. For once, someone wasn't looking at her scar with pity or disgust. Someone was calling it strength. The biker leader snarled, trying to mask his sudden unease with bravado. "And who the hell are you to tell me anything?" Daniel didn't flinch. "I'm someone who knows what it means to be broken and still stand, and I won't let you turn her scars into your entertainment." The other bikers shifted in their seats, restless, unsure. For the first time that night, their laughter was gone. The room was heavy with silence, the kind that pressed against the chest and made breathing harder. Alina, trembling, whispered, "Please stop. Don't fight." But Daniel turned to her, his voice softer now. "You don't need to be ashamed, Alina. Not ever. You survived something they couldn't imagine. That makes you stronger than every one of them." Her eyes widened. She had never heard her scars spoken of that way. For years they had been her secret shame. The reason she avoided mirrors, the reason she kept her sleeves long and her head down. And now, in front of the whole bar, someone had given them new meaning. The biker leader gritted his teeth, but something in his eyes betrayed him. Fear. Not fear of Daniel's fists, but of the truth he couldn't touch. Because truth has a way of disarming even the cruelest people. And in that moment, the bar seemed to shift. People who had been silent, hiding in the safety of looking away, began to find their voices. "That's right," an older man muttered from the corner. "She's stronger than you'll ever be," said another. One by one, the silence broke into murmurs of agreement, rising into something Alina had never heard before: support. The bikers looked around, realizing the room was no longer on their side. Their laughter wouldn't echo here anymore. Their power had slipped, not because of fists or violence, but because kindness had spoken louder than fear. Alina clutched her torn shirt, her hands shaking. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she wasn't just crying from humiliation now. She was crying because, for the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. Daniel stepped closer, pulling off his jacket and draping it gently over her shoulders. "Hold your head high," he whispered. "Scars don't mean broken. They mean you fought, and you're still here." Her lips trembled, but she nodded, her heart swelling with something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. The night didn't end with fists flying or bottles breaking. It ended with a scar being seen not as something ugly, but as proof of courage. It ended with a bar full of strangers realizing that sometimes the bravest thing anyone can do is to survive. And for Alina, it ended with a seed planted deep within her heart, a seed of strength she never thought she had.